effective according to his will in spite of who you are. And now we look at the text, brothers and sisters, and we got some examples because in the Old Testament there was a fellow by the name of Samson. Samson had the Spirit of God resting upon him, and when the Holy Ghost rested upon him, it gave him what we have identified as superhuman strength. But when the Holy Ghost lifted, he found himself in some sticky situations that almost cost him his life, and ultimately did cost him his life. When David was in a place where the Holy Ghost was resting upon him, you got to understand that the Holy Ghost did not reside within him, but it rested upon him, because we know that David was empowered, he was enabled to do great things under the power of God. But whenever that power lifted, David found himself in trouble. He was killing somebody or taking somebody's wife, getting in all kind of stuff, because the power rested upon him. Even Moses, we know that we give Moses all of this credit for going into Egypt and being God's mouthpiece. The Holy Ghost, the Spirit of God, rested upon Moses. It made him enabled effectively to do a specific task. But when it was that the Spirit lifted, Moses found himself in the wilderness, giving in to the pressure of the people and doing something to appease them, ultimately falling out of grace with God. My mentor said it to me like this in a moment of impartation: the Holy Ghost safeguards the intentions of the Father. Now I know you might be sitting in your living room in your pajamas, you might even be in your car right now listening in while you got the screen on, but I dare you wherever you are to say thank God for the empowerment and the enabling of the Holy Ghost. Listen, I might not be perfect, and I just want to take a moment here just to celebrate you right quick, right where you are, because sometimes in church culture we have a way of criticizing and belittling people for not arriving at a place where they are living a life completely free from sin. But I just want to celebrate the folks that understand I'm not perfect every day of the week, but every now and then the Holy Ghost will rest on me and I can still do something to please God. I just want to celebrate folks. You ought to pat yourself on the back this morning on this good Pentecost Sunday and say, listen, I'm not where those other people are yet. I still have some growing to do. I still have some maturity steps to take, but I'm just glad that when God looks at me, he sees enough potential inside of me that every now and then he'll allow his Spirit to rest upon me, that I can still do something in service for my God. I don't know who I'm talking to, because I can't see none of you, even though you all can see me, but you ought to just type in the comments right quick, thank God for empowering me, thank God for enabling me every now and then to be effective in his service. The non-negotiables of Pentecost: you shall receive, you shall reproduce. He says after the Holy Ghost has come upon you, and I'm almost done here, he says you shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and to the uttermost parts of the earth. This is the last thing I want to give you, and I'm going to get out of your way. Number 3, you shall report. It is non-negotiable, brothers and sisters, that we as believers must begin to share our report. He says through Luke, the Jewish physician, as he's writing here in Acts chapter 1 verse 8, he uses the penmanship of Luke to remind us that it is not an option, but we have a responsibility to report on his behalf. Remember when he gives them the Great Commission in Matthew chapter 28 verses 19 and 20, Jesus says to the disciples, after he has been resurrected from the grave and he's showing himself to them and validating his real real life existence and his resurrection by proving to them that it's really him, because he has the holes from Calvary's cross still in his hands. And he tells them this before he understands. He's telling them now that he's got to ascend into heaven, that he's going to have to leave them. And he tells them, go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And he says, and lo, I'm with you always, even until the end of the world. Number three, you shall report. Now understand, brothers and sisters, that this responsibility we have to share this report. He says, you shall be my witnesses. That means that you shall be the evidence. You shall become the testimony that people see and hear to prove and to validate what you know to be true about me. You have a responsibility to report. And look at here. He does it not only to Jerusalem, but he says to Samaria and to the uttermost ends of the earth. That is, that it is not only inclusive of everybody, but it is also futuristic. He says, I want you to tell everybody. He says, but then I want you to tell everybody everywhere. He says, I want you to tell everybody everywhere, not only now, but in the days to come. And so when we look at this text, and I promise I'm done, he said that you got to make sure that you are always positioning yourself, that you are in placement for the non-negotiables of Pentecost. He says, you shall receive of me that which I want to give you. He said, you shall reproduce the power that I placed inside of you. And lastly, he says, you shall report the experience that you witnessed from me to validate my story for the generations to come. That's what the whole upper room experience was about. He gave them the ability to speak in other dialects so that everybody everywhere, it was people gathered from every nation in Jerusalem. And